Welcome to Addicted to Busy, the podcast specifically for overachieving property managers who are dying for a little more work-life balance in their lives. Each week, we dismantle all the BS that holds us back. You'll learn how to nix those tricky, self-sabotaging habits so that you have the time, energy, and motivation to create what you really want in life. If you're looking to shift from overcommitted to overjoyed, this is the podcast for you. Let's do this. Now, your host, Anna Havliana.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Addicted to Busy. This episode should be airing roughly around the end of the year, beginning of the new year. So this is a perfect time to talk about New Year's resolutions. Now, I don't set New Year's resolutions just because I'm usually working on multiple things and multiple goals at once. And there's absolutely no way to time those things to start exactly on January 1st and end them on December 31st. But for those of you who do have New Year's resolutions, there's one thing that we need to talk about, and that is excuses. So I was talking to a friend who had mentioned that they wanted to start working out more. And this person had actually purchased multiple pieces of fitness equipment that they had at home, but they had more excuses as to why they couldn't use it or couldn't get started today. So I said to them what I would say to a client, which is, you know that there's literally nothing that's preventing you from exercising today. But instead, they came up with every excuse in the book. They didn't have the right workout clothes. They needed to move furniture around in their home. They didn't like the machines that they bought. They didn't feel motivated enough. But the truth is, there was literally nothing that was stopping them from working out that night. No one says that you have to have workout clothes that fit. I know that I have squeezed my ass into some very questionable leggings and still managed to get out for a run. Was I comfortable? Absolutely not. Did I feel confident? My muffin top would have said no in that moment. But that was the point. In order to become more comfortable in my body and to create more confidence, going on the run was more important than having the perfect workout outfit. Excuses are what keep us stuck exactly where we are. And most of the time, excuses are just a stalling tactic. It's easier to focus on why we can't start than to deal with the discomfort of actually starting. So the question that I have for you is do you believe your excuses or can you see them for what they are? In the case of my friend, I knew better than to challenge them on their excuses. There's this quote that says, when you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And I don't know who said that, but it's genius. And you can kind of tell when you're speaking to someone whether or not they're going to keep fighting for the reasons why they can't do something, or if they're the type of person who can take accountability for their actions, right? You hear a distinct difference in the way that people talk about their goals. They're going to be those people who they keep focusing on the obstacles rather than actively trying to find the solutions. They will use their past history as a justification for why they can't do something, right? They'll say things like, I've never been consistent, or I'm just not a morning person. Other people will try to overcomplicate everything so that they can further stall themselves from doing those hard things that they need to do. Or they'll avoid accountability by either blaming others or blaming their schedule or blaming their financial situation. So if you have someone who wants to argue for their limitations, you'll also notice that if you try to help them problem solve, they'll get defensive and or they will shut down. Now, if you find someone who doesn't get defensive and doesn't shut down, that's how you know that you're working with someone who is invested in finding solutions. And let me tell you, those conversations are so much more fun to have. People who are accountable to themselves will fully acknowledge the role that they play in their own life. And they're able to give themselves critical feedback without being too harsh on themselves and without it turning into a pity party. More importantly, they do take action, even if it's imperfect. And they might actually seek feedback on how to do things better or how to simply get started. Now, there are times when you may have a legitimate reason when you can't do something. Okay, so we're just going to keep rolling with the example of working out. A legit circumstance is something outside of your control that impacts your ability to take the action that you want to take, right? So, as an example, there's a difference between saying, I didn't go to the gym because my car broke down versus saying, I didn't go to the gym because I didn't feel like driving to the gym. A legitimate circumstance is something that you can't control, while an excuse is more about your mindset or your internal resistance. Another way that you can think about this is that excuses are more emotion based, while circumstances are more neutral. There's a difference between choosing not to work out because you'll feel embarrassed about your workout clothes versus choosing not to work out because you left your workout clothes at home. And even at that, a true solutions-based person will still find a way to get that workout in, even if it's shorter and or it's done at home. I can't tell you how many times I have forgotten to pack either my socks or a sports bra in my workout bag. And you best believe that I have definitely run down Theodore Parkway more than once with my girls flying free. Okay. Now, I'm kind of slamming everyone's excuses, but the truth is that I had one giant excuse that I used for years. And it's an excuse that ultimately led me to create this podcast. Year after year, I kept evading my poor health, my relationships, and my moods with one excuse. And that is that I don't have time. Now, I had hundreds of variations on how to say this excuse. I would say things like, I'm just working so much, or I have so many commitments, or by the time that I'm done with my day, I'm just too tired, or something always comes up last minute, or if I can't do it perfectly, I don't want to do it at all, right? And then my favorite was always the I'll start tomorrow, I'll start next week, I'll start after the holidays. I was the queen of blaming my waistline, my bank account, and my short temperedness on my lack of sleep and lack of time due to my job. But in reality, I was the one who was choosing to spend as much time at work as I was. Now, work is such an easy thing to hide behind because it's often praised. People look at someone working long hours and think, wow, they're so dedicated. But in reality, for me, it became a shield. It gave me a sense of control. When everything in my life felt chaotic, my health, my relationships, even my moods, work was predictable. I could measure progress, I could meet deadlines, and I could get all these tiny little dopamine hits from completing a task. I may have been a chubby, grumpy person, but I could get shit done like it was no one's business. Work was a distraction. If I was swamped with projects and emails, I didn't really have to sit with the discomfort of addressing my real issues. The busyness drowned out this nagging voice that was saying, hey, maybe you should deal with this. Work also let me avoid vulnerability. Dealing with my health meant admitting to myself that I wasn't taking care of myself. And addressing relationships meant that I was actually going to have to confront my emotional baggage. Work was a way to avoid those uncomfortable conversations, both with others and more importantly, with myself. When I work with clients one on one, I actually require an initial consultation before allowing them to sign up for a package. And the reason why I do that is because I need to know if I'm about to work with someone who is either going to keep arguing for their limitations or if I'm going to get to work with someone who is sincerely invested in getting out of their own way. And I love finding people who can see that they have some roadblocks and they want to work on them. The person who can not only see their roadblocks, but actively seek them out and wants to work with them, working with them, it's fun. It's like a breath of fresh air. Like you can tell when someone's ready for a change, even if they're like not exactly sure on how to make it happen, right? They're the type of person who can say, yeah, I have some patterns that aren't serving me. And they can say it where it's not like a confession and it's not like something's wrong with them. It's more like they're naming it so that they can finally do something about it. They don't have to pretend to have it all together, but they're also not going to choose to sit in their stuckness. They're not playing the victim or making excuses. They're standing at this really powerful place between self-awareness and action. Okay, it's like they're saying, all right, I see the problem. Now, what do we do about it? Now, what's so fun about working with people who take accountability for their actions is that they're open, right? They're not defensive when you point something out that might be uncomfortable for them to hear. They might flinch because who wouldn't, but then typically they'll lean in. They'll get curious. They'll start asking questions like, what can I do differently? Or how do I start making that shift? And it's really not about perfection. They know it's going to be messy and they're okay with that. This is why I love working with my clients so much, is because it feels like collaborating, right? They're not waiting for someone to fix them or to jump in the pity party or argue about why something won't work, right? Most of my clients, they are willing to roll up their sleeves and really dig into the tough stuff because they know that on the other side is something better. And that energy is contagious. It makes you want to pour into that person because you can see how badly they want it for themselves. And honestly, it's just rewarding to witness someone step into that space of growth and possibility and watch them take ownership for it. I have a client that I've been working now with for 3 years. And let me tell you, it is so exciting to watch their progress because I know that they are going to do the work and create something amazing for themselves because I've seen them do it year after year. As we're entering into 2025, now is a really, really great time to check ourselves and evaluate how we are relating to and working with our excuses. So, as you're listening, if you're not driving and if you're in a spot where you can stop for reflection, grab a piece of paper and a pen or pull out the notes app on your phone. Okay. And I want you to take a moment and think about something in your life that you have been putting off. Maybe it's a goal that you've thought about but never really fully considered, or something that you've just told yourself that you want to do, but for whatever reason, you just haven't started. Okay. Maybe it's getting healthier, starting a creative project, setting some boundaries, or just organizing that one crazy closet that you have in your house. Whatever it is, hold it in your mind for a second. I want you to write that goal down, the thing that you've been wanting to do but keep avoiding. And be honest with yourself here. There's no goal that is too big or too small. And once you've written it down, I want you to think about why you haven't started. Write down every reason that you've given yourself. Okay, don't filter anything. Maybe you said that you're just too tired, or you don't have the right tools, or that you're just not that type of person who would do that thing. Or maybe it's just that you don't even know where to start. Whatever excuses have been swirling around in your head, go ahead and just get them onto paper. Okay, so now here's where I want you to really check yourself. Look at that list that you just wrote, and for each excuse, ask yourself, is this a legitimate circumstance, or is it just an excuse? I think for the most part that you will find that the majority of the list is excuses. Now, here's the fun part. Look at your list again and pick one excuse, the one that feels like it's been holding you back the most. And instead of letting it stop you, I want you to flip it, right? Take that excuse and reframe it into a solution. Okay, so for example, let's say that your excuse is that you don't have enough time. Reframe that into something like, I will find 15 minutes. You've probably heard me talk on the podcast before about non-negotiables, right? When we make a non-negotiable for ourselves, we want it to be something that is just for us and that is so easy that we cannot fail. So for me, I will exercise and move my body absolutely every single day. For the most part, that means either going for the run or going to the gym for 45 minutes to an hour. But some days it is quite literally only going for a walk around the block. Okay, so we want to make sure that you are constantly challenging those excuses so that instead of those excuses becoming a reason not to start, they actually become little fuel for why you can get started. The truth is that we don't need perfect conditions to start. What we need is momentum. And momentum comes from doing literally anything. So I'm asking you to give this a shot. Take your reframe and commit to one small action today. Doesn't have to be big or impressive. It just has to move you forward. Maybe it's laying out your clothes tomorrow for your workout. Or if you're like me, if I know I'm going to work out in the morning, I just sleep in my workout clothes so that it's one less barrier to entry. Or it could be something like just Googling a tutorial to learn something new. Or maybe it's connecting with a friend and you can just send them a text. Whatever it is, do it today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Once you've done it, take a moment to reflect on how it felt to follow through, even in a small way, right? Did it feel good to get out of your own way, even just a little? Did it help you feel like maybe you're stronger than your excuses? Because I want to tell you, once you start proving to yourself that you can do it, it gets a whole lot easier to keep going. All right, so that is your homework. Take one small step today, no matter how imperfect it feels. And remember, it is not about having everything lined up perfectly. It's about just choosing to get started anyway. How many times have you told yourself, I'll get to that later, only to find that later never comes? Maybe you're buried in work, balancing an endless list of tasks, and telling yourself that once you clear the current chaos, then you'll have the time to focus on what really matters. The truth is, excuses aren't just something that holds you back, they're actually habits. And like any habit, you can learn to overcome them. And that's exactly what we focus on in time blocking for property managers. This program isn't just about managing your schedule. It's about changing the way that you think about your time. Overcoming excuses, it is one of the most critical skills that we can learn. Because until you recognize and reframe those excuses, no system in the world is going to help you. When you master time blocking, you're not just organizing your day. You are committing to prioritizing what truly matters. And this is where we get to address those excuses head on. Within this program, you're going to be able to identify those stories that you tell yourself that keep you stuck. And you're going to be able to reframe those excuses into actions, even when things feel imperfect. Remember how I shared about my friend and their excuses for not working out, and myself and my excuses for not taking care of myself? The same principles apply here. It is not about having the perfect circumstances. It's about creating progress despite the imperfections. I would love to work with you in 2025. So join us at annahavliana.com/timeblock to get started today. Use the code podcast for 50% off. As always, I love you all. Keep going, and we will see you in a couple weeks in the new year.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Addicted to Busy. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. This helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.